Confessions of a Dangerous Mind is the newest album from Logic. It's the second project he's put out in 2019. The first was Supermarket, which is one of the worst things I've heard all year. It's maybe the worst thing Logic has ever done. It's hilariously and embarrassingly horrible. Like, it's incredible how abysmal that project is. So going into this one here, I was thinking it at least has to look good by comparison. I just thought Logic had an advantage with this project that it would almost be impossible to feel as strongly towards this one here, given how bad his last one was. And somehow, I don't know how he did it, but I was almost able to hate this project as much as I do Supermarket. Supermarket is still a bit worse, but this is another one of the worst albums I have heard all year. It is incredible the consistency with which Logic has been putting out terrible projects ever since Everybody. Now, while listening to this album, there were so many things that were popping out at me that I just wanted to come on camera and rant about, but pretty much every single one of them has to do with the lyrics on this album. So just to get some basic things out of the way first, about the album overall, I'll just say that the production on the whole is just so watered down, sterile, generic. I mean, it's basically like unseasoned chicken throughout the entire thing. The hook on Icy is just embarrassingly horrible sounding. I have no idea what the fuck he was going for on that one. The drums on the title track sound absolutely horrible. He loves to boast about his rapping skill and his technical ability, but when you're recycling flows and rhyme schemes that you've used a million times in the past throughout all your projects and throughout this album in general, it's not impressive hearing you just do the same exact rapid fire, double time flow over and over. Okay, we get it. You can rap fast. That is not impressive. Another thing I'd like to note is the more I listen to Logic's music, the more I notice that he has incredibly basic diction. Just because he says the words fast and says words that don't relate to drugs and money does not mean that he's some incredible wordsmith. In fact, the vocabulary in his music is basically equivalent to what you'd find in like a 9th grade English paper. And as much as Logic loves to boast that he's not only out here rapping about drugs and whatever, does not mean that he's still not repeating and recycling content that he's been using throughout his entire discography. Just because he's repeating different things does not mean that he's still not repetitive as hell and just talking about the same things over and over and over again. I mean, how many times throughout his music have we heard him rap about how he's one of the only real ones left, or criticizing artists who he claims only rap about drugs and money and women and that type of things? How many times have we heard him talk about, the hate he gets and his little woe is me attitude? How many times have we heard that stereotypical preachy positivity shit that he does all throughout his music that is just super basic and corny sounding? How many times, and this is not even as a meme, I just mean literally, how many times have we heard him rap about being biracial? How many more times do we need to hear that? I mean, how many lines throughout each project of his, if you compiled them, they're just saying the exact same thing over and over again. I'm biracial and I'm proud of it. That is the sentiment. I'm not saying you can't rap about that, but the way he does it, he almost never explores it in depth. He just basically has these corny ass lines where it's almost like he's playing into the meme now, but even if it is, it just gets so tiring. You're just saying the same things over and over and over again in your music too, Logic, so you're not on some other level here. There are just so many moments lyrically on this album that piss me off. I mean, on Don't Be Afraid to Be Different, he spends the entire chorus saying, don't be afraid to be different, y'all, even though this song sounds like 30 million other rap songs ever made, and he spends a good portion of this album actually putting down the new wave of artists in the trap and mumble rap lane who, whether you like that style of music or not, you cannot deny that they are doing things differently. So he's just completely undermining his own already corny and preachy and, fake positive and whoa, everyone just be happy message on this song. I mean, like this song here, it literally just sounds like a computer generated 80s rap song, and yet he has the gall to then go and shit on people doing things differently, but then go ahead and say, don't be afraid to be different, guys. And now I'm just going to go through some lines that I took note of while listening to this project. I don't remember exactly what songs they're from, but it really doesn't matter. Do your research before you call somebody homophobic. You make a living off of controversy and you know it. I ain't that type of artist. Respect my name and we can talk about it. I'd suck a dick just to prove it ain't that way. Like, what are you doing here, Logic? You're going way over the top. This is like, I'm not homophobic because I have a gay friend, but like on steroids. Just, holy shit. Like, how can you... It's one of the corniest things I've ever heard. I am the best in my field like a slave. Like, where do I even... Do I have to explain that? Do I have to explain how fucking insensitive and stupid and just... Why the fuck would you say that? Old girl want to give the boy head. How about a little bitty self-love instead? Okay, shut the fuck up, Logic, as if you can't, give head and also have self-love. Like, okay, fuck off. I got children to feed, I got places to be, I got bitches to fuck, let me see your ID. Yeah, Logic, I love hearing lines on my rap albums that are jokes about pedophilia. That's amazing. I'm so cold, I think I'm made of ice. Like, for a guy people claim is a lyrical genius, Like, how many fucking times have you heard, like, the exact same variation of this line, you know? What a fucking clever metaphor. I'm so cold, I think I'm made of ice. Holy shit. I don't really want to glorify it, but the streets glorify it, so I gotta glorify it for the people throw a riot. If I don't talk about it on my album, they won't buy it. Now this one just pisses me off because like the narrative that people like Logic try to spin, that you can't become popular in hip hop if you don't rap about drugs, and that people won't buy your music if you don't talk about drugs, and that you're so edgy if you talk about things other than drugs and money and women, because like you're just making a statement that, yeah, I know I won't get popular from this, but I'm just gonna do it anyways because I'm so amazing, man. Like, as if Drake, J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, Eminem, you yourself, Logic, aren't the biggest artists in hip-hop right now. I mean, Jesus Christ. Like, that narrative that they try to spin, like, I'm not talking about drugs, so I can't get popular. Like, how the fuck can you even claim that at this point? And how the fuck do people buy that? It is absolutely ridiculous. At this point, it's just self-pity, you know, it's just woe is me, like, oh man, you know, I'm the last real one left, you know, people don't even know how hard it is out here to get popular in the game when you're not just rapping about drugs and blah blah blah. Like, all you're doing at this point is punching down when you're way more successful than most of the people doing this. And as I said, when most of the biggest artists in the game are not people who are in this little lane that you like to just box people into. And here's the worst one of all when he says, I ain't bipolar, Kanye makes me wish I was, cause that level of genius, the meanest. Like, can you please shut the fuck up and fuck off? Like, that type of glorification of mental health and mental illness, you know, just making light of it like that is so fucking insensitive. You think people who are actually struggling with real mental health problems are gonna hear you say, oh yeah, I wish I had it, cause then I could make great music. Oh man, you guys are so lucky that you have mental health issues. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, I don't even need to go more into it than that, because if you can't see how fucking ridiculous and embarrassing that he'd even say that is, like, literally, Logic, for that one, straight up go fuck yourself. You know, for a guy who loves to preach positivity and all that shit, like, writing lines like this, it kind of just shows who your true character is, in my opinion. Like, you just say that shit, you know, as a way to, you know, fakely prop people up, and then you could just brand yourself as like the positivity guy, and that could be your thing. But when you're saying shit like this, it proves it. Do you really actually care about struggles people are going through like that? So seriously, man. And actually, that makes your other positivity shit, you know, songs like the Suicide Hotline song, even worse, because then it shows like you're almost just talking about that stuff to then, you know, get people who are dealing with that stuff to relate to you and then, you know, buy your music, become a fan of it. But when you say things like this, it shows that it makes it seem like you don't actually care about them, and you're just kind of, you know, using them to get successful, if you know what I'm saying. So like, fuck off for that one. Absolutely ridiculous. And then, you know, I'll say this album also has maybe his worst and corniest biracial line to date. And then overall, just like, it's hilarious to me that a guy who brands himself as an incredible lyricist, the guy who's branded by his fans, you know, that they claim the reason they love him is because he's, you know, one of the best lyricists out. It's incredible to me that that guy is actually one of the worst lyricists working today. So straight up, this album is garbage. Logic is honestly, he's one of the worst artists in hip hop working today, in my opinion. Why did I bother with this one, given that I've really hated all his most recent projects? It was really a morbid curiosity, but I really did not expect this to be as bad as it was. You know, I thought this would be just Bobby Tarantino level, where it's just so watered down and generic sounding that it bores me to tears, but overall it's like, fine, this is whatever, I don't really care about it. But with this one, he really just, Jesus Christ, like, I can't even tell you how pissed off I was listening to so much of this album. So yeah, fuck this thing. I'm giving it a 2 out of 10. The only reason it doesn't quite dip down to a 1 is just because, sure, Supermarket's a bit worse, so that would be what I'd call a 1 out of 10. And also, like I said, even though the production on this album is bland and sterile as hell, it's passable, it's fine, it's whatever. But overall, like, Logic did everything he could himself on here to just completely tank this project. So yeah, again, this thing is horrible. Don't bother checking it out at all. I mean, you probably wouldn't anyways, but yeah. I don't even know what to say. I'm not even going to ask to, you know, tell me your thoughts on this album, because you shouldn't listen to it, and I'm assuming if you did, if you agree with me, you know, there's no point in saying that. So yeah, thank you guys as always for watching though, and I will see you next time.